expected by 10:45. In Salford, the M62 westbound faces a lane closure due to a load spillage. A collision on the A13 westbound in Thurrock causes 40-minute delays. The M5 southbound slip road at junction 30 is closed due to a police incident. And on the trains, disruption continues between Sheffield and Derby on East Midlands Railway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News.
Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
Thank you, GB News!
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, 9:30 on Monday the 18th of May, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, there's a new Brexit battleground. Andy Burnham distances himself from previously calling to rejoin the EU, whereas Wes Streeting calls Brexit a catastrophic mistake.
Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
And today, Sir Keir Starmer returns to Westminster, and he will speak. As the leadership Brexit row heats up, we'll have all the latest twists and turns.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Well, that post by Reform's Zia Youssef has been removed by TikTok for hate speech. He accuses Labour of silencing their opponents using the Online Safety Act.
Well, the Online Safety Act was supposed to be all about protecting children from harmful content, whether that be suicide or porn, and yet here we are with an almighty row about free speech and a Reform video.
And youth crime crackdown. Parents could face prison for children's crimes under new justice reforms. But Justice Secretary David Lammy isn't talking to GB News, so he could have told us all about it this morning.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal. But they might be crazy.
Well, is this another countdown to chaos? Donald Trump tells Iran to move fast, or there won't be anything left of them as tensions escalate over the Strait of Hormuz.
And shocking new footage shows 2 US Navy jets crashing mid-air during the Gunfighter Skies air show, although happily all 4 fighters successfully ejected and they survived.
And the Chelsea Flower Show is in town, and justice has prevailed for gnomes as a 36-year ban on them has been overturned.
So Starmer's been holed up with his advisors at Chequers all weekend. He's out and about this morning with his new health secretary, James
Murray.
Thank you. Who, of course, had replaced Wes Streeting, who quit. He's going to challenge Starmer, he says, for the leadership. Some suggestion that he might outline a timetable for when he will resign. I don't buy a word of it, because he's going to wait for the by-election in Makerfield, which we think will be June the 18th, because there's a big chance, in my view, Burnham doesn't win it.
Exactly, and if he doesn't win it, and Starmer's already agreed to stand down, then it leaves the leadership contest wide open. Will Wes Streeting win it? Could the party then tear itself apart? I mean, I think an impartial observer would advise him not to do anything hasty.
Absolutely. So that will be at some point during the programme this morning. As ever, tell us what you think. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Katie Bowen.
Good morning. The headlines at 9:33. Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable for his departure. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy. It comes as Labour leadership rivals Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham have ignited a fresh row over Brexit as they vie to oust the Prime Minister. There are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. Oil prices are climbing once again this morning after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran, telling Tehran they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. Parents and guardians could be more likely to face harsh repercussions if their children break the law under a shake-up of the youth justice system being launched by David Lammy. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far, after being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize. Mr. Rai described the moment as very surreal. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me at 10 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, Brexit's back, and with a vengeance. Andy Burnham's allies, you see all over the newspapers today, have accused Wes Streeting, who's already out there, isn't he, to quit the cabinet, of trying to derail his campaign for Makerfield after Wes Streeting said this over the weekend.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
However, Andy Burnham has distanced himself from that debate, insisting that he will stand instead on local issues.
Are you in favour of rejoining the European Union?
I've said in the long term there is a case for that, but I'm not advocating that in this by-election. In fact, what I am saying is focus now domestically. Britain has got to focus very much on the here and now.
And in the last few moments, the Prime Minister has been spotted leaving Downing Street. He's going to a hospital where he'll meet James Murray, his new Health Secretary. Ostensibly, they want to talk about an apparent fall in waiting list, but I suspect, Miriam, that won't be the questions he'll be asked.
Indeed. And even that fall in waiting list, there are big question marks about whether it's just an increase in the number of people who have been removed from the list because they no longer require treatment, which of course has to be done. But nevertheless, perhaps the fall has more to do with that.
A lot of tidying up of waiting lists, hasn't there? But what I find very odd about Burnham's people, that they've gone for the jugular with Wes Streeting. They should have just ignored it. Instead, you've got quotes like betrayal. Times is in particular really says that it's sabotage, and I think Lisa Nandy got it right, the Culture Secretary, when she said at the weekend, why is Wes Streeting saying all this about Brexit? Does he really saying that everything was fine in my Wigan constituency before the referendum? Because it wasn't. And Wigan is next door to Makerford, where the by-election is going to be held, almost certainly, we think, on June the 18th, which I think was the date of the Battle of Trafalgar.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, Waterloo.
Waterloo. October, I think.
Waterloo. Yeah.
Goodness me.
Battle of Waterloo.
Well, a historic day for many reasons.
Yes, absolutely.
The dynamics of this, though, are really confusing, Andrew, aren't they? Because on the one hand, Labour MPs surely want Labour to win that by-election. But anyone who doesn't want Andy Burnham to win, to become Prime Minister, wants Labour to lose that by-election.
Wes Streeting wants Andy Burnham to lose. Is he going to go and campaign?
Well, he says he is, but what will he stay on the doorstep? That will be very interesting.
If Starmer really wants Andy Burnham to lose, which shores up his position, he should go to the constituency himself and campaign, because that will cost Burnham votes because he is so unpopular on the doorstep.
Well, Nigel Farage has had plenty to say too. He thinks that voters deserve honesty, as he claims that Burnham will betray Brexit voters. Do you think some of Burnham's previous comments have been taken a little bit out of context there? It's a different thing to think, well, one day maybe it'd be nice to rejoin the EU, which he obviously does think.
But he will be pro-EU, he will be pro going back into the EU, and that will be what Reform will say on every doorstep. They're going to say that free movement of people will be back. It's going to open the floodgates to even more migration. It will become a very messy election, by-election.
It definitely will. Well, we're joined now by the political editor at HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, to talk about this. Kevin, good morning. This could almost be a soap opera, this by-election, the different relationships that are involved, the mixed motives. Would you put your money on Burnham to win this?
Oh, my word. I wouldn't put a lot of money on it. There's a poll out this morning, I think, which shows he's got a 45% chance of winning and a 55% chance of losing. So that shows you, I mean, that's worse than a toss of the coin, you know. So he is up against it. It's certainly by no means guaranteed. I think if any Labour candidate can win it, it's Andy Burnham. He's obviously very popular in that part of the country. He's been re-elected twice as the Greater Manchester Mayor. But this is a by-election, and, you know, as Nigel Farage has said, Reform are going to throw absolutely everything at it. And Andy Burnham's record and his views on everything that he's spoken about in the past will be on the ballot paper, and that includes Brexit. And that's why I don't think it was any coincidence that Wes Streeting raised it as an issue on Saturday, because it immediately put pressure on Andy Burnham. And you could tell in that interview clip that you just showed, he was very uncomfortable discussing it. Now, it was only last September at the Labour Party conference when he said he hoped to see Britain back in the EU in his lifetime. So these aren't, you know, historical quotes from a long, long time ago, and he's since changed his mind. This is what he thinks. And if he thinks that, you know, he shouldn't be asked about that because it's a by-election, then I'm afraid he's got another thing coming.
And of course, Reform, Kevin, will seek to make it the issue. And if we have, during the by-election, if the weather's good, lots of small boats crossing the channel, that will all feed in to a Brexit, almost a Brexit referendum.
Absolutely. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, Andrew? It'll be held, as you say, June the 18th. We expect almost 10 years to the day since the Brexit referendum, and yet here we are a decade on, and Labour are still tearing themselves apart over it. Jonathan Hinder, the MP for Pendle, was on the radio this morning saying it's absolutely brainless for Labour to even be touching this subject. David Lammy was on a rival channel this morning. He was asked 5 times if he thought or he wanted Britain to rejoin the EU, and he wouldn't answer. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary that Labour, that they're going there. It's remarkable, and voters are watching, and the voters in Makerfield will undoubtedly be watching. And people can cast their ballot for all sorts of reasons. They might be casting it because of Brexit. They might be casting it because of Andy Burnham, potholes, the cost of living, anything, But this type of debate in the middle of a by-election campaign is an absolute nightmare for the Labour Party and for Andy Burnham.
Well, it is, but one man who may benefit from that is Wes Streeting. Yeah. Because if Andy Burnham does not win the by-election, Wes Streeting stands a much better chance of becoming Prime Minister. Do you think many of Wes Streeting's colleagues this morning will be secretly very angry with him for bringing Brexit back into public consciousness?
Undoubtedly, they will be, and no, it wasn't accidental. I don't think that he chose Saturday to say this, put it right in the heart of this by-election debate. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there are a lot of Labour MPs, to be frank, aren't very happy with Wes Streeting anyway, but this just makes them even more angry, especially those who support Andy Burnham, because they know that this is toxic on the doorstep for him. And yeah, what's bad for Andy Burnham at the moment is very good for Wes Streeting. He can say publicly that he's going to campaign, and I'm sure he is going to campaign, and wants Andy Burnham to win, but it certainly won't break his heart if Andy Burnham loses, because, as you say, Miriam, that increases his chances of becoming the next Prime Minister, because once we know the result of the by-election, one way or another, then I think that's when the leadership challenge will happen.
And Kevin, we don't even know, do we, whether Wes Streeting has got the 81 MPs which is necessary to trigger a leadership contest. My hunch is he hasn't got them, because if he had, he'd have published them.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was last Thursday when he resigned. The expectation was he would resign from the cabinet and then launch a campaign. Now, we've had contrary briefings. Those opposed to Wes Streeting say that he's nowhere near the numbers. His team insists that he does have the numbers. I've spoken to a couple of people in his team who privately told me that he didn't have the numbers, and that was on Thursday morning. So I'd be surprised if he does now. That may change, I guess, when things crystallise after the by-election, and that's when we will know one way or another whether he does have the numbers. But if Burnham doesn't win, then that obviously brings the likes of Angela Rayner and potentially Ed Miliband into play as well, and that's when it gets really messy indeed.
Well, Kevin Schofield, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lots of food for thought there.
Indeed. Now, still ahead, parents could face prison for their own children's crimes under new reforms being unveiled today by David Lammy, who, of course, is the Justice Secretary as well as being Deputy Prime Minister. No, he never comes on this programme. But I have to say, I agree with the idea. I think.
Yes, well, up next, find out why Reform UK's Zia Youssef is accusing Labour of weaponising the Online Safety Act. Don't go anywhere.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, we've got some rain affecting France as we go through Tuesday, warm in the sunshine elsewhere with a few showers. There is a bit more cloud across the Canary Islands and across Madeira, best of the sunshine across Portugal and Spain, outbreaks of rain affecting France. Elsewhere, many places seeing sunny spells, a few showers bubbling up as we go into the afternoons, but otherwise temperatures are on the rise, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We should be almost banned.
Do you really?
I really do, because and then you just let the listener or the viewer find their own a take on it and their own opinion about it.
Right.
I really don't like it. At Olympic Games, I really don't like the sort of cheerleading and showboating and the we this, we that, we the other.
So you're not the USA.
Britain, I'm sorry.
That much
No,
stronger
it's Britain. Britain are third in the medals table. Not we are third in the medals table.
Right.
I think.
Okay, and how does everybody react to that? Is everybody... Because I must admit, I do quite like the we thing.
I don't.
Okay. Tell me about favourite sporting events, because I'd imagine London 2012 must be the greatest thing you've been involved in, right?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, I've been very lucky across, a whole load of things. I mean, one of my... You always remember the things, you always remember the first time. To be in the Olympics in Seoul in '88, and to see Ben Johnson win the 100 metres, and then the furore off the back of that, when with the possible exception of Lance Armstrong, the biggest drug scandal in the history of sport. I mean, that was an amazing.
So were you covering that at the time, that race
for BBC Radio? Yeah.
So at what point did you know about this? Because now it's known as the dirtiest race of all time, isn't it? But at the time, this man had broken the world record. He was the greatest sprinter anybody had ever seen, and it was such a huge story.
The most amazing thing about it was I can't remember how big the crowd was, but in my head it was like 90. 100,000.
Yeah.
And when he crossed the line and you saw on the electronic scoreboard what time he'd done, you've never heard 100,000 people be so quiet and then be so loud, because the reaction was just... that's not possible. A bit like, running under 2 hours for a marathon.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so we all thought this is just extraordinary and beyond belief.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 12 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, a Reform UK TikTok video has been banned after accusations of hate speech. It all involved Zia Youssef from Reform. Take a listen and see what you think.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Well, Zia Youssef has blasted Labour for using the Online Safety Act to silence their opponents. Well, let's speak to GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, to get more on this. Now, Catherine, this video is still widely available on Twitter and other platforms, X, I should say, but TikTok have taken it down. Why is that?
Yes, it's had 6.2 million views on other platforms, so a huge amount of a pickup. But TikTok has taken it down under the bracket of apparently hate speech. Now, Zia Youssef is saying that the Labour Party is basically using the Online Safety Act to silence political opponents, and that TikTok are doing their dirty work. Now, yes, the government have brought in the Online Safety Act, worth saying that it was originally the Conservatives. It took many, many, many years to be brought in, and Nadine Dorries, now in Reform, was a huge champion of it when she was Culture Secretary, wanted it to be actually much stricter than it is, but Reform do not like it. They have said that they will repeal it if they get into power. They say that it suppresses free speech, and I do think there clearly are big questions, because it is supposed to protect people, particularly young people, from pornography, from self-harm. We obviously had the case of Molly Russell, who saw all sorts of horrendous content. And yet here we are with a political video talking about immigration. I mean, all of those shots. Actually, I was Euston, the big road that runs along past Euston Station, I think the second or third shot where you see all the tents. Yeah. I was there a couple of weeks ago and I was really, really shocked. Same down from Hyde Park Corner as well.
Unbelievable.
These sort of little not little encampments that are springing up over London, and nothing is done. But TikTok have taken it upon themselves to take it down. And so, of course, Reform very unhappy about it. And also, of course, it suits their agenda, which is that the Online Safety Act is a bad thing which suppresses free speech.
One of the problems here, Catherine, is that we have a definition of hate speech in law, but it's incredibly poorly defined. And of course, the Online Safety Act uses this definition. TikTok also have their own definition of hate speech, which is very broad. And so probably somebody's complained to TikTok and said this is hate speech, and they've taken it down because they don't want to be sued. But I think a broader problem here, Catherine, is that we have this idea that there are things that you can't say, and nobody really knows how to define that.
Yes, and I think that's a huge part of the problem. You're not allowed to say that. And if you do, you will be branded as racist. I mean, that's part of the problem with the grooming gangs, wasn't it? That we know that many people in positions of authority look the other way because they didn't want to be seen as being racist. But the government have said on this, online safety laws do not ban any legal adult content. Instead, the laws protect children from viewing material that causes real harm in the offline world, devastating young lives and families. Platforms should not arbitrarily block or remove content, instead must take a risk-based, proportionate approach to child safety duties. But this does feel like this is something very different, because there's nothing about this that's to do with
no, so what's that got to do with children?
This Zia Youssef video, precisely nothing.
And actually, as this by-election's the writ's about to be moved today, this could run for a couple of days. Rather suit reform, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Draws attention to an issue they're going to make a big factor in the by-election. This country cannot cope with this level of migration. Legal or illegal or legal.
It's going to be a huge issue, and of course Reform are going to pick up the comments made by Wes Streeting at the weekend, very unhelpfully for Andy Burnham. Comments that Andy Burnham made back in the autumn in conference, where he said, I'm going to say it, I hope in my lifetime that we rejoin. But this seat, 65% leave, and in fact I was reading this morning that in the general election of 2024, more people voted for Reform in Makerfield than any other seat which Labour went on to win. So of all the seats that Andy Burnham could be fighting, given that Reform are the biggest challenge to the government, this is the toughest, and I think no one can know who is going to win this. It's on a knife edge.
Because he couldn't get another seat.
I think
he kept telling us for weeks he'd got a seat.
I think so.
He clearly hadn't, and it's a bit like Wes Streeting saying he's got the names. He hasn't got the 81 names either. Yeah,
there was last week there was a seat apparently that he was going to be, and then the guy said absolutely not. I think this is the hardest.
I was told it was going to be Stockport, where the majority was 15,500, and the bloke pulled out.
Yeah, he tried to get lots of seats, and this is the one he's got.
But
a very tough fight.
Were to win it, it would be a game changer.
Certainly would.
Well, it'd be the next Prime
big
Minister.
risk, big reward.
And if he loses it, he's finished.
I think Labour might be finished as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, up next, we're off to the Chelsea Flower Show for a bit of light relief, but there's good news for garden gnomes. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The unsettled theme does continue. A day of sunny spells, scattered showers, rain arriving later, and the winds will be picking up too. Through this morning, though, it's been a bright and fresh start across Scotland and eastern England. Showery outbreaks of rain breaking up across the country, leaving more widespread showers, especially across northern parts of England into Scotland. Northern Ireland turning drier this afternoon with more hazy sunshine developing, and here temperatures reaching up to 14 degrees across the southeast, highs of 14 to 16 degrees. As we go through the afternoon and into the evening time, those showers persisting across much of Scotland. Either side, across the far east and the far west, we should see some sunshine to end the day. Across Northern Ireland, though, we've got the next weather system approaching, so cloud will be increasing, some showery outbreaks of rain arriving by the end of the evening across the south, that persisting across Wales and the southwest of England. So outbreaks of rain during rush hour here, elsewhere holding on to showers. Those showers across eastern areas will start fading away, and it will be replaced by wet and windy conditions. Outbreaks of rain more persistent and heavy than recent days, really holding on and pushing across the country through the overnight period, turning heavy over the hills. But with the rain, cloud and strong southwesterly winds, temperatures will be holding up as we start Tuesday morning. But it's a wet start to Tuesday morning. Outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, eventually clearing most places, but lingering the longest across Scotland through much of the day. Behind that, sunny spells, blustery showers moving through. Those showers could be on the heavy side still, but pushing through pretty quickly, and temperatures lifting up to 17 to 19 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A66 eastbound in Cumbria, a traffic collision restricts lanes, expected to clear by 10:35 this morning. In Thurrock, the A13 westbound remains disrupted after an accident, with 2 lanes closed and 40-minute delays until shortly before 1. On the M20 eastbound in Kent, a crash closes 2 lanes with 15-minute delays into mid-afternoon. At junction 30 in Devon on the M5 southbound slip road, all lanes remain closed due to a police incident. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway is disrupted between Sheffield and Derby. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of May. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Brexit is back. Andy Burnham has now distanced himself from previously, that was last September, by the way, calling to rejoin the EU in his lifetime. Wes Streeting, who's resigned from the cabinet to fight the leadership, has called Brexit a catastrophic mistake and said Britain should rejoin the European Union.
Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
10 years after we left, Brexit is back, and it could shape who is next Prime Minister of Great Britain. The date for the Makefield by-election will be set in the next few days.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Well, that post by Reform's Zia Youssef has been banned by TikTok for hate speech, but he accuses Labour of silencing their opponents using the Online Safety Act.
There's to be a youth crime crackdown. Parents could face prison for their own children's crimes under new justice reforms, but sadly we can't discuss them with the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, because he won't come on GB News.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal, but they might be crazy.
Well, I think we've heard all that before, but it's another countdown to chaos as Trump tells Iran to move fast or there won't be anything left of them as tensions escalate again over the Strait of Hormuz.
Shocking new footage showing 2 US Navy jets crashing mid-air during the Gunfighter Skies air show, though all 4 airmen, or women, successfully ejected and survived.
Well, the Chelsea Flower Show is back in town and justice has prevailed for gnomes as a 36-year ban on them has been overturned. It's also good news for those wanting a sex garden, whatever that is. Any ideas, Andrew?
Absolutely none whatsoever. I have a very nice garden with geraniums in it.
Don't want to know.
Call me boring. Lovely thing to go to, though, Chelsea Flower Show. The entire royal family. What are you going to say there? No, I used to go years ago when I was on the Times. On the Monday, the entire royal family's there, or maybe not today, maybe it's tomorrow. But it's just beautiful.
Any idea why gnomes were banned for 36 years?
I think probably somebody thought they were a bit too down market, but they're an integral part of the British garden, aren't they?
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad they've been uncancelled.
No gnomes in my garden.
Do you think TikTok will allow gnomes on their platform? Who knows?
I do think reform are kicking off a row that isn't there, in a sense, about the TikTok video being taken down. It's TikTok's choice, nothing to do with the government.
Well, it is probably to do with the Online Safety Act telling TikTok that they have to enforce their terms and conditions, and they've got this very, very loose definition of hate speech. But I think it highlights the problem of mass, uncontrolled immigration.
Yeah.
And that is something that both Labour and the Conservatives have completely failed on.
Absolutely.
And it will bring that to the front of voters' minds during this by-election.
Yeah,
what is Andy Burnham going to say about immigration? That's what I want to know. Because if he's going to... He said in a long tweet yesterday that he agrees that it's not people who've left the Labour Party have left its people. So how is he going to take the Labour Party back to that place where people are allowed to be concerned about immigration? I'm very interested in what he has to say on that.
And, of course, he will say, I haven't been in government for 9 years.
It's not my fault, Gov.
Exactly what he's going to say, 2017. But I haven't heard Andy Burnham saying, as Mayor of Greater Manchester, one of the most popular politicians in the country, one of the largest mandates, immigration is too high, we've got to stop the votes. I have not heard him say that once.
So that should definitely be a focus of questioning. But he is trying to claim that this should all be about local issues, and he's not being presumptuous. He just wants to win and make a field. But of course, people want to know if they're voting for him. He will probably, if he wins, he will almost certainly become the next Prime Minister. We do need to know how he'd run the country, not just how he would conduct his constituency surgeries.
Andy can talk about potholes as much as he likes in this by-election, but I suspect it isn't the #1 issue for people in that constituency. It's very poor, it's very deprived, there's high unemployment, there's poor housing, and remember, it voted 65% to leave the European Union.
I think he's going to talk about buses.
Yeah.
He likes buses. Well, send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say, but first here's the news with Katie Bone.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you and good morning. The headlines at 4 minutes past 10. Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable for his departure. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister. David Lammy has called on the Labour Party to unite to contest the upcoming by-election in Makerfield, praising the Prime Minister's strength of character and fighting experience. That's as Labour leadership rivals Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham have ignited a fresh row over Brexit as they vie to oust Sir Keir Starmer. Allies of the Greater Manchester Mayor say the former Health Secretary's comments on rejoining the EU were unhelpful, suggesting it was a transparent bid to pit Mr Burnham against Reform UK in the Makerfield by-election. Over the weekend, Wes Streeting described Brexit as a catastrophic mistake. Andy Burnham, meanwhile, said there was a long-term case for advocating to rejoin the EU, but insisted he was not campaigning on that issue in the by-election. Elsewhere, oil prices are climbing once again this morning after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran. The US president says the clock is ticking and Iran better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Progress on a deal between the two countries has stalled in recent weeks. That's as there are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty by 5p per litre amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. The Treasury has not yet commented on the speculation. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. 3 people, a Dutch couple and a German national, have died since the start of the outbreak. That's as a medic who developed hantavirus symptoms on a remote British overseas territory is being cared for in a hospital in London. Arrests involving the National Crime Agency for offences linked to people smuggling have gone up by more than 55% in a year. That's according to the organisation. The NCA was involved in 300 arrests, both in the UK and overseas in the year to April 2026, up from 190 the year before. The rise is said to follow an increase in resources, with more officers working to focus only on organised immigration crime. Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Alex Norris, said the government has launched a record-breaking number of enforcement actions, including arrests and sanctions against migrant smuggling networks. Parents and guardians could be more likely to face harsh repercussions if their children break the law. That's under a shake-up of the youth justice system being launched by the Justice Secretary. David Lammy is hoping to prevent children from starting a life of crime in plans to strengthen parenting orders published today. As part of the overhaul, the Justice Secretary has promised to cut the number of children kept in jail while they await trial by 25%. There's also plans to pilot new youth intervention courts, which will aim to bring together judges and support services to tackle issues which are drawing young people into crime. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far. After being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize, Mr Rai described the moment as very surreal. His triumph, which comes a month after Rory McIlroy retained his Masters title, marks the first time in the era of the 4 major current championships that the season's first 2 majors have been won by Europeans. As are your latest GBNews headlines, a quick look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.3383 and €1.1495. The price of gold is £3,401 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,205 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. Well, lots of people getting in touch, Andrew. And guess what? The main topic is, of course, Andy Burnham's run for Makefield and possibly the leadership of the Labour Party. Lisa says, pure trickery by Burnham. Don't worry, your little heads, about leaving the EU. Just vote for me on domestic issues.
It's been made even bigger by Wes Streeting in a technique he could have taken straight from Peter Manus's book of The Black Art of Politics.
Well, this is
Chris Hope's here, our political editor.
It's great to be back with you. Have I missed anything?
Not much.
Not a lot. Quiet week.
What an extraordinary time. So we've got two competing worlds of politics. The one world is the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. He has left Downing Street and he's gone off to, we think, maybe to a visit to hospital because the money they've ploughed into the NHS is bringing down waiting times. That is fantastic.
Is it really? Or are they cooking the books?
Well, in the old days, you waited for so long that you healed yourself or you got iller.
Yeah, because a lot of people are contemplating because they no longer need treatment.
Let's try and thank you, Andrew, for that question. But let's try and give them the credit for what they think they're doing.
Yeah, all right. Credit where it's due.
This announcement was on last Thursday, and now it's Monday, and the PM hasn't spoken to the press for a week. He may speak later to the press because what we all want to know is, will you fight the incoming leadership election, Wes Streeting or Andy Burnham taking part. And, of course, that's happening. David Lammy didn't come on GB News today. He's the Deputy Prime Minister. He's got a big announcement about the justice system. Our viewers don't know what it is. They have the government done to them when they don't explain their policies to our viewers. It is outrageous, and it's getting more and more frustrating. We can't hear from the people who are running our country because they have issues with the channel. But I digress. We're hearing later from Sir Keir Starmer, hopefully asking questions from journalists. And the key question is, will you fight this leadership election if it happens?
Well, I think he'd fight Andy. I think he'd fight Wes Streeting.
Yeah.
Because I think he'd beat him.
Yeah.
And I think Streeting doesn't have the numbers, because if he did, the 81, where are they?
Where are they?
He'd be on the front foot. He'd have all the momentum.
But Streeting, we think, is waiting until we know what the result of this Makerfield by-election, which will be on the 18th or the 25th of June. Ironically, 10 years, almost to the day, since that vote on the 23rd of June 2016 to leave the European Union. I mean, you couldn't imagine it. This will be the Brexit by-election, whether Andy Burnham likes it or not, set up for us by Wes Streeting on Saturday, saying, what does Andy Burnham believe about Brexit? Burnham, of course, we know back from 2010 and 2015 when he ran, he's known for flip-flopping around on issues.
Yeah,
that undid him in both those leadership elections. He just says one thing to one group, another thing to another group. Already that is happening, because it looks like he'll be not wanting to talk about Brexit to a two-thirds voting Brexit constituency in Makerfield.
Chris, there's so much riding on this by-election. It really is a crossroads in British politics, because if Andy Burnham wins, he will almost certainly become Labour Prime Minister. That could see a boost in the polls for Labour. He could call a general election that nobody else is ready for. But if he loses, if even Andy Burnham, most popular politician in the country by polling, can't beat reform, then Labour's over.
Well, Labour's in trouble. I mean, let's take the latter scenario.
Yeah.
If Burnham loses, it means that reform is emboldened. Yeah. Keir Starmer is probably emboldened, as you say, probably would see off all comers, maybe including Angela Rayner, waiting to see on that. And then that suits Nigel Farage, who says, just the election results 10 days ago, that Keir Starmer is the best recruiting sergeant reform have got for them trying to carry on. So it is extraordinary, but also if Burnham wins, that will embolden the anti-Brexiteers, because that will show Labour they can win in a heartland, which is two-thirds majority voting for Brexit. And that will, I think, put Brexit more in peril, because I think that the next election will be on a rejoined ticket from Labour.
What went wrong for Burnham? Because for weeks we've been told he'd got a secure, safe seat lined up for him to jump into. Nobody would call Makerfield majority 5,300 a safe seat.
That's a risk.
And I was told last week it was Stockport, 15,500, pretty comfortable majority, and Reform had not much of a presence there. I think he didn't get it. I think he was desperate. I think this was the only seat he could get his hands on.
Well, the pace was forced on by the scale of that vote.
Yes.
I think the Labour MP, Catherine
West.
Well, Catherine West, who came out
on the coup.
The botched coup, that forced the pace. And whatever you think about Catherine West, that forced the pace. That led to the resignation of Wes Streeting last week. And then, of course, this Josh Simons result, he stood to one side.
An MP for 2 years stood down.
Yeah, and there's chatter now already. I know that there are figures in the Tory party who think that the Tories should really soft pedal the ticket in Makerfield in exchange for reform soft pedalling in Aberdeen South.
She said she wouldn't do that with Camilla yesterday.
She must
They
have.
just put up a paper
But there is, of
cabinet.
course, another party on the right who could influence this, which is Rupert Lowe's Restore. And we saw in the local elections that Restore won all, I think, 9 or 10 of the council seats they stood for in Yarmouth. They didn't stand anywhere else. If Restore stand in Makerfield, and even if they take just 7, 8, 9% of the vote, that would probably be enough to stop Reform winning the seat.
But Labour have the same problem with the Greens. Yeah.
Although Greens are probably more motivated to tactically vote for Burnham, I would say, in this particular election.
There's a personal animus between the leaders of Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe, and Nigel Farage. He hasn't yet tested himself, Rupert Lowe, nationally. He's done very well in Greater Yarmouth. He's got his wall of councillors there built around his being the MP for the area. We're yet to see that break out from where he is, and with democracy, it may well happen. There is an ego problem between the two of them. They don't like each other, do they, Farage and Lowe?
Well, it's loathing.
Well, it's going to be a tight race, I imagine.
It really is. Some people say, Chris, the most significant by-election in 50 years, because it will directly impact on who is our Prime Minister.
He could do, but again, what will Keir Starmer do? He might say, I can beat Andy Burnham. He might say, let's not reopen all the chaos of Brexit. I mean, I do think if...
I think that's wishful thinking dated with names. He won't have 81, he'll have 201 within a week, surely, because people are so fed up.
So many parallels with the Boris Johnson era Tories. You've got here this charismatic Metro mayor, good at the Metro story in Manchester, good at policing and transport. But what can he do nationally? He says it's called Manchesterism, which I was trying to find out what it was from The Guardian at the weekend. This apparently is the politics of making people feel rooted and invested in local areas. Manchesterism is localism. So he's coming into this election. He's the prince over the water. The guy coming in, he's exactly like Boris Johnson, and everyone thinks he'll solve all the problems they've got. Why should he?
Boris was the most popular politician in Britain when he was Mayor of London.
Yes.
Because he wasn't contaminated by government, and it's the same with Burnham.
I mean, he has got more of a record in Boris Johnson. He was Health Secretary under Labour, Culture Secretary also. But I just think there are parallels here because the problems remain for this country.
I'm sure, and we're checking this out, I'm sure he was involved in those disastrous contracts for GPs.
So he was certainly involved in PFI initiatives, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's advocating spending £100 billion on renationalising the water industry, just one example of what we're looking at. And that's why the bond markets are a bit worried.
But in his interview with ITV yesterday, he was incredibly reticent to be drawn on any national issues because he kept saying this is a local by-election. But how far can he run from that?
Won't hold, certainly won't. Chris, that's our political editor. Great to talk to you.
Well, let's move on now. And a Reform UK TikTok video has been removed after accusations of hate speech. Take a listen.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Well, Zia Youssef has blasted Labour for using the Online Safety Act to silence their opponents.
Online safety campaigner Molly Kingsley joins us now. Good morning, Molly.
Good morning.
Is this what the Online Safety Act was for, to have contentious political videos, campaign videos removed?
No, of course not. And actually, I mean, I know you just described me as an online safety campaigner. I think, as you both know, I have been deeply sceptical about the Online Safety Act as being a legitimate way to protect children. I am very much an advocate for child protection, and I think there's a very interesting question about where child protection intersects with free speech. However, free speech is absolutely paramount, and I think this goes to show why we need to protect children in a way that doesn't infringe on the free speech of adults more generally.
Why do you think it is that other platforms like X and Facebook are absolutely willing to show this video? It's had millions of views across those.
Again, with all these platforms, is how nebulous and how discretionary the censorship regime under them is. So, we saw this in the pandemic, didn't we, where some platforms let some content through, others let the same, censor and took down and suppress the same content. And those of us who were impacted, and, we were directly impacted, so we were debanked actually by PayPal, slightly different but related issue. We never got an explanation. We just a bit like Zia and this, we just got a random email one day saying your activities have been, your account's been suspended due to the nature of your activities. Nothing more than that. And I think it is very nebulous. And I think this is the problem with the Online Safety Act. It is nebulous. The provisions are vague and they're unsatisfactory. And I think many of us would say, unless speech is clearly unlawful or clearly hate speech, and I think there's a question here because I know that is what TikTok have said, it shouldn't be taken down. Now, how anyone could think that what Zia was saying there was hate speech, I just don't understand.
Well, Sorry, Molly, I was looking at the TikTok terms and conditions this morning, and their definition of hate speech is extremely broad, as you might imagine. And of course, under the Online Safety Act, they have to stick to their terms and conditions. That seems to be the problem here.
Yeah, and so it has been weaponised, I think, as Zia Youssef says. There's a risk that these platforms are weaponised by opponents, or in fact, you don't even have to say, and I know he insinuated it was a Starmer, a Labour policy. I don't think that's true, actually. I think this is just the platform, as you say, sticking by its terms and conditions. But their speech is being weaponised, and once you set these very broad terms and conditions, it's very hard for the platforms then to row back on because of the Ofcom threat. And we know this, and we knew that this is what was going to happen.
Indeed. Molly, what do you think the answer to this is? Because Reform want to repeal the entire Online Safety Act. Let's say we did that. What provisions would you then put back in place to make sure that there are sufficient protections for children?
Yeah, I mean, I think repealing the Online Safety Act and not having any alternative is no longer a viable solution. And I know we've talked about this a bit, but, you know, for a start, parental and public opinion is now at a point where quite clearly the majority of the public do see there is a need to protect kids. In terms of what you do, you don't attempt to tamper or to restrict adults' free speech, but you clearly need to create a guardrail around spaces that kids are in. And the way that you do that, and I think, you know, this is the amendments that have been going through Parliament at the moment, in particular in regards to social media. The way you do that is not a blanket ban on all social media for kids under 16, but it's to say, let's look at the most pernicious aspects of these social media platforms. So the things that make them addictive, the things that set kids up for a risk of exploitation, and let's take those elements away from children. And I think on top of that, we can all probably agree that there are some very clearly defined types of content, and I'm thinking here about things like suicide content, that children should not have access for. And I don't think that is seriously in dispute now. But beyond that, these very nebulous terms, whether that's in the terms and conditions of the social media companies, whether that's through the provisions of the Online Safety Act, there shouldn't be a place for those in a democracy like the UK, which says just about that it values free speech.
Molly Kingsley, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, a Department of Science, Innovation and Technology spokesman has told GB News.
Online safety laws do not ban any legal adult content. Instead, the laws protect children from viewing material that causes real harm in the offline world, devastating young lives and families. Under the Act, platforms should not arbitrarily block or remove content and instead must take a risk-based, proportionate approach to child safety duties.
There we are. Now, time for the Great British giveaway. You can win £76,000, £543 and 21 pence. Don't forget the 21 pence.
Absolutely, very important.
Tax-free cash. Here's the details, how you do it.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the Brexit battle is back on, this time between Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham.
We'll be talking about that and a lot more with the former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Field and Matthew Talbot, who you know very well. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a battleground.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates, and we're joined in the studio by Matthew Torbett's phone, which is ringing really
That's
loud.
not my phone.
Oh, it's not? It's Andrew Pearce's phone!
My phone? It's terrible.
Oh,
Who
dear,
rings me
sorry,
at 10:30? Don't they know I'm on the television? I'm on the TV.
Why don't you answer
Talk
it
to me now. Turn it off.
Well, while you do that, shall we turn...
sense than Andrew normally.
Yes, thank you for that.
It's just avatar at this point.
Matthew, I am sorry for slandering you, and I've now lost my co-presenter. Well, let's get back to some serious politics.
That's the first time that's
Maybe
happened
it's
since
Andy
I've been on
Burnham
this
calling
station.
you.
If it was Andy Burnham, I'd have taken
Pick
the
up.
call.
Yeah, we want to know what he has to say.
I hope so, after that story about him and his car. Yeah. That was terrible.
Oh, tell us. OK, can we just formally introduce you so I feel better? We have the former Labour advisor, Matthew Torbett, and former Foreign Office Minister and author, Mark Field. Thank you for joining us. Tell us about Andy Burnham's car.
It was a bizarre story, really. I know everyone thinks it's a big photo op. Sky News and others have said we turned up on the off chance he'd be there. I know they were camped outside his house from 6 o'clock that morning, desperate to catch a glimpse of him. He went for a run for 45 minutes, came home and got in his car. But they're making out he ran to his car and then drove off in it.
But they're saying the whole thing was a gimmick.
Yeah, but the guy runs marathons. He's been running 5 times a week since God knows how long. But they're trying to make out it was a big stage. I mean, it's not the most important thing, but...
I was frankly more worried about the shorts. They were terrible.
He has apologised for
yes, and he has apologised.
He was a big fan of Everton, as we know, and obviously that must have been the what they were wearing in the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly. Terrible shorts. Not a good look.
But...
I mean, do you remember how terrible Boris looked when he went jog? But that was all part of Boris's designer chaos look, wasn't it?
No, it was, yes.
Of course, slightly more important than Andy Burnham's running attire. This is a massive, massive by-election, not just for Andy Burnham, but for the Labour Party.
I think it's existential, actually. I think it was always going to be this way. I'd spoken to Andy. I mean, I've been banging this drum for the last 15 months. I've obviously spoken to Andy about this sort of stuff. And it was always going to be, I know there's been press reports, it was always going to be a seat like this. And I think to prove yourself, if you wish to run for to be leader and take on reform, you've got to show you can beat them. And this is exactly the sort of area. Massive gamble. It will be tight. I think... if anyone can win that sort of seat in that area, it would be him. And if he can't, well, I'm afraid we're looking at double figures at Labour at the next election. I think that's the way we're heading.
Mark, would you have advised him to run for that seat?
I would have said there's a big gamble involved. Listen, obviously there weren't other options available. I mean, my instinct is he would have probably won the Gorton Denton by-election because I don't think there would have been the momentum for the Green Party. But, of course, on the 7th of May, there was huge momentum in in Makerfield for Reform UK. I think the big thing will be the candidate selection for Reform UK. They need to have a relatively uncontroversial...
I think they've already picked somebody.
Someone hyper-local, ideally a business person, perhaps someone who was a Labour supporter over the years.
I think it's a local councillor who won last weekend.
Because in Gorton and Denton they picked Matt Goodwin, who wasn't local, didn't know the area, and could talk about national issues, couldn't talk about local
TV personality.
Of course, all of that. But I think he was the wrong candidate for that seat.
I think that's probably right, and there's no disrespect to him. And actually, Gorton and Denton is a very strange... I mean, I bow to Matt's knowledge about Greater Manchester more than mine, because it was part in Manchester and part outside. It was, whereas this is much more of a traditional, what I call red wall type seat.
My instinct is he doesn't win it.
I'm beginning to think that might be the case, and I think
it was a masterstroke by Streeting to play the Brexit card on Saturday.
Well, you're right on that, and in many ways, the Brexit issue, and I think that Farage will want to be a little careful about not massively overplaying it, although, of course, this by-election is going to take place, if we believe, on the 18th of June, which is literally in the week that of the 10th anniversary. But I think the bigger issue, it's a proxy for the idea of the establishment, just thinking they can run roughshod over people's views. And in many ways, again, much as I know that Andy Burnham has tried to sort of reinvent himself on several occasions in life, he is ultimately an establishment politician. He's, on leaving university, became a researcher, then was a SPAD and an MP, came back to Manchester just over a decade ago. And I just think that that's the bigger issue. It's the idea of the establishment, and also, dare I say, for the people of Makerfield. They've had Josh Simons, who's been in for less than 2 years. Yeah. He himself was parachuted in as a new candidate. Of course he was. There's this idea that it's just a safe Labour seat and can just be used by anyone to look at their broader ambitions. And to have a very local Reform UK candidate who is going to focus on what am I going to do for Makerfield in the years to come.
I think that's quite compelling, because there will be surely a backlash that Burnham has quit Greater Manchester. Oh, I thought he really cared about Greater Manchester. Why isn't he doing this 4 years? And Makerfield being used as a platform for one man's political ambition. And that's a charge he's going to have to answer.
I think Mark's analysis makes sense, and I would agree if I hadn't heard different. And that's the truth. I spoke to people there at the weekend. I'm going to go up on Wednesday myself and find out. Is that he is an establishment type. He's obviously been around a long time. What voters are saying at the moment, certainly, is that they consider him separate from the Labour government, and that they like the idea of having him as their local MP, regardless of whether Greater Manchester or otherwise. I think there's an excitement at he'll be whole theirs rather than sharing him with the rest of Greater Manchester. The streeting thing, I can't make my mind up whether it was purposeful or not.
Oh, yeah. Yes. It had Peter Mandelson written all over it.
I'm sure
I'd love to prove that Mandelson had been on the phone to Streeting, but I couldn't ever prove it.
Well, he is Mandelson's boy after all.
He certainly is. He certainly is.
I had a phone call to the contrary, but, for me, he doesn't seem to come up on the doorstep, and that's genuine. People don't talk about Brexit. It's nearly been 10 years. I think if Farage goes hard on it, I'm not sure whether
it'll work on immigration, won't he?
Well, Matthew, I see that Andy Burnham has retweeted you this morning, so maybe you're in line for a top job. GBNews
I've had people teasing me about this. I've been meaning to do this for Andy because I think he's the right person.
What did you tweet that he's retweeted?
Making Labour normal again.
It's a little video.
Labour come across as a normal party for normal people and represent them.
I do think, Mark, that is a huge advantage of Andy Burnham compared to many of our politicians. He seems normal. He seems like you go to the pub with him. He's been around a long time and he's still popular. That does say something.
Once you can fake being sincere, then you get away with it. Cynical. No, he is a very affable guy. We were actually in the same intake in 2001 as MP, so I knew him a little bit, and he is affable. He's certainly charismatic, and no one ever accused Keir Starmer of being terribly well endowed with the charisma stakes. I guess the issue is, I just wonder, there will be a lot of unease from a lot of Labour MPs. The idea that there's a cohort of 400.
And none of them are up to it. There's going to be a
coronation. None of them are up to it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is a sense that for 10 years he's been sauntering up in Manchester, and they've had the hard fight of getting rid of Corbyn, dealing with the aftermath of the Corbyn era, and then dealing with the hard graft of being in government. And I think there just will be a bit of resentment about
a king over the water, indeed. Well, we're going to have to stop there, but we've got some more coming from the panel in an hour. But now we've got your 60-second news update with Katie Bone.
Good morning. The headlines at 10:35. Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable of his departure. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy. It comes as Labour leadership rivals Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham have ignited a fresh row over Brexit as they vie to oust the Prime Minister. There are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. Oil prices are climbing once again this morning after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran, telling Tehran they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship MV Hondius has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. Parents and guardians could be more likely to face harsh repercussions if their children break the law under a shake-up of the youth justice system being launched by David Lammy. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far, after being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million. Those are your latest headlines. More news from me at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Up next, President Donald Trump's issued an ultimatum. Funny that. To Iran. Will this have any impact on Britain? We'll fill you in on it shortly. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The unsettled theme does continue. A day of sunny spells, scattered showers, rain arriving later, and the winds will be picking up too. Through this morning, though, it's been a bright and fresh start across Scotland and eastern England. Showery outbreaks of rain breaking up across the country, leaving more widespread showers, especially across northern parts of England into Scotland. Northern Ireland turning drier this afternoon with more hazy sunshine developing, and here temperatures reaching up to 14 degrees across the southeast, highs of 14 to 16 degrees. As we go through the afternoon and into the evening time, those showers persisting across much of Scotland. Either side, across the far east and the far west, we should see some sunshine to end the day. Across Northern Ireland, though, we've got the next weather system approaching, so cloud will be increasing, some showery outbreaks of rain arriving by the end of the evening across the south, that persisting across Wales and the southwest of England. So outbreaks of rain during rush hour here, elsewhere holding on to showers. Those showers across eastern areas will start fading away and it will be replaced by wet and windy conditions. Outbreaks of rain more persistent and heavy than recent days, really holding on and pushing across the country through the overnight period, turning heavy over the hills. But with the rain, cloud and strong southwesterly winds, temperatures will be holding up as we start Tuesday morning. But it's a wet start to Tuesday morning. Outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, eventually clearing most places, but lingering the longest across Scotland through much of the day. Behind that, sunny spells, blustery showers moving through. Those showers could be on the heavy side still, but pushing through pretty quickly, and temperatures lifting up to 17 to 19 degrees.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A66 eastbound in Cumbria, there are lane closures between the A5086 and A591 Keswick Road due to a collision, with normal conditions expected by 11:18. Drivers on the A13 westbound in Thurrock face 15-minute delays, where 2 of 3 lanes remain closed. Southbound entry slipways on the M5 at junction 30 in Devon are fully closed due to a police incident, with clear roads expected just before noon. And on the trains, East Midlands railway services between Sheffield and Derby and Thameslink between Denmark Hill and London Blackfriars face disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
Donald Trump has issued a chilling warning, brackets, again, to Iran, telling them to move fast towards a deal or, quotes, there won't be anything left of them. Here he is on Fox News.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal. But they might be crazy.
Well, the threat came...
I'm talking about people being crazy.
You get to the irony, Andrew. The threat came after a call with Benjamin Netanyahu as tensions over the Strait of Hormuz continue. Well, joining us now is the contributing editor of The Critic, Chris Bayliss. Chris, good morning. Welcome to the programme. Hopefully we'll have a slightly more straightforward chat than when you were last here. We had tons of breaking news.
It was very busy, wasn't it?
Trump's made these threats to Iran before. Should we expect anything different this time?
Well, I mean, I think so. Obviously, it's been several weeks now since he last said that a civilization would come to an end if the Iranians didn't comply. I don't think it can be argued that they meaningfully complied on that occasion, and we saw then that there was a de-escalation. This is a major point of credibility for Trump now. He is somebody that we were used to taking his threats seriously. If he said he'd do something, then he generally did. He made this blood-curdling threat, and he's done so again. I think that if he issues this and now nothing happens, then I think that people will really start to take his words a lot less seriously. But I think, looking at the dynamic here, back at the beginning of this conflict, and if you look at the earlier stages of Trump's presidency and his first presidency, he really mastered the principle of strategic escalation. The Iranians, it would be tit for tat, but the Iranians would do something, and he'd just dial it up that bit more, and he'd eyeball the Iranians and say, do you really want me to take this further? And the Iranians would back down, because ultimately it was their backyard, and America wasn't really threatened.
The Strait of Hormuz, Chris, is still blockaded?
Yeah, effectively.
How much oil is getting through?
It comes in fits and starts. There will be, if there are moments of relative security, then you'll have a few going through. But it's a fraction. It's a very small fraction of the volumes that we normally be seeing.
And the impact on potential still for a shortage or shortages and price hikes?
Well, I think so. We've seen prices come back up again today, particularly in the wake of there was a drone attack on a nuclear power station in the UAE, which jumped. I mean, prices are now about 20% higher than they were this time last month, and we were already well
last month.
Yeah, this time last. Around that, the 30-day average, about 20% higher. It is having a major impact on America, and really what we're looking at here is the price of motor fuel in the United States. That's what's putting the political pressure on Trump, and it's that the Iranians know is their point of leverage. And it's not really costing them a huge amount. They're already seriously sanctioned. And where previously the Americans Trump could threaten to tighten the ratchet, to raise the stakes, but on this occasion, he went in right at the beginning with all of the force, with this major round of attacks between him and the Israelis, and it's sort of left relatively little now for him to threaten to do, unless he's really going to take it to apocalyptic stakes. What I suspect will happen is that nothing very much will happen from the Iranian side, and that there will be another round of American and Israeli strikes, similar to what we've seen so far. And the Iranians now they've grown accustomed to this. There was a moment when it looked like there might be an uprising generally in Iran. That seems to have petered out because the Iranians know that America doesn't seem ready to back that up.
And because they kill people routinely who could potentially be ringleaders of any insurrection.
This is it. And this is a country now, obviously it's not a democratic system. They've come through these crises. They know that they can force their people to bear a great degree of cost, which Trump really can't. And they can see now the pressure that Trump is in because his people won't tolerate gas above $4 a gallon.
Amazing, isn't it?
And as the election comes closer, he's putting them in an ever tighter spot, and they think that they can get him to walk away. And if you look at his latest round of his red lines, 3 of them are about things that he's not going to do. He won't consider reparations and stuff. I mean, this is fairly... this is a major walk back from where he was before. But the 2 major red lines are about fissile material. They're they're only allowed to maintain 1 nuclear facility, and they have to hand over their uranium stockpiles. This is a fairly tacit admission that the earlier round of strikes didn't inflict the mortal blow on the Iranian nuclear program that the White House was claiming earlier in the conflict.
And that this war, this military action, has also failed to do the same thing.
No, exactly. And this is... So, I mean, the reason that they know they've got Trump in this spot is because he promised his voters that he would not start another ground war. Well, he promised he wouldn't start any other war in the Middle East, but particularly a ground war with American troops and American blood being spilt there. And if he's not willing, if he's not able to go that far, they know that they can hide behind that. And this is... It's almost as if Trump has now got himself into the position that he traditionally put other leaders in, where they were isolated individually. And Trump's difficulty on this now is an individual matter. He is personally in a very tight political spot.
Certainly is.
And he's and this is it pains me to say this, but if the Iranian regime can come through this, it will be a victory to them that will re-energise that system for, I'm afraid, quite a few years.
Sadly, it seems true. Well, Chris Bayliss, thank you so much for your expert opinion, as always.
Now, up next, the horrors of October 7. Remember, that was the trigger for the war in Gaza, are being brought back into focus through a new installation featuring remains salvaged from the Nova Music Festival attack that's happening in here. This is in Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. We've got some rain affecting France as we go through Tuesday, warm in the sunshine elsewhere with a few showers. There is a bit more cloud across the Canary Islands and across Madeira, best of the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. Outbreaks of rain affecting France. Elsewhere, many places seeing sunny spells, a few showers bubbling up as we go into the afternoons, but otherwise temperatures are on the rise. Plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Colin, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And of course, you're wearing your full Chelsea pensioner regalia. It's a resplendent sight. Colin Thackeray. 2/3 of young people don't even know what VE Day is. You know what it is. You lived through it. Tell us, tell the nation how important it is and your memories of that beautiful day.
Well, extremely important to remember and to continue to remember. It means, obviously, victory in Europe. And it was a great day because everybody was happy and, you know, we all lived through 5 years of war, and it was a smashing time. And I'd rather hope that people will continue to do so.
Do you think the problem now, Colin, is we've got a younger generation who are taught badly, and they're taught often to be ashamed of British history? We talk about slavery, the evils of empire, yet we don't celebrate the genuine heroism of VE Day and people like yourself.
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, 2 years ago we were in Korea. We went across for a revisit, and I hadn't seen the place for 70 years, and it was extraordinary. The place was, the school was built up, and the people were marvellous. And every child knows exactly when the war was there, what we were there for, and we were told. I was told by a 9-year-old, it never occurred to me that, look, if you didn't come, we would be living the same as North Korea. That's a shame, isn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
The Nova Music Festival exhibition, which acts as a memorial to October's 7th victims and survivors, is opening for the first time in the UK.
The exhibition features various artefacts from that devastating day, including personal items of the victims and scorched, bullet-riddled vehicles.
We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk to our GB News national reporter, Will Godley. Will, morning. Tell us more, Will.
Well, good morning, Andrew, Miriam. Yeah, it's a deeply moving, immersive experience here in London. As you say, travels around the world, and for the next 6 weeks it's here in London. And there are artefacts left behind from the survivors, including bottles left behind from the bar, and also the stage from that festival, from that fateful day, of course, as 3,000 festival goers sought to escape the atrocities of Hamas, which resulted in the lives of more than 400 people being killed. And one of them was Jake Marlowe, who is an unarmed security officer there, and his parents join me now, Michael and Lisa. Thanks for joining us on GB News. It's an incredibly moving experience, but for you, Jake was known in North London. How does it feel having come here?
For you guys and for everybody listening and watching on TV, welcome to hell. October the 7th was hell. But behind us here is heaven as well. These beautiful souls that were murdered brutally on that day. Jake sadly was one of them. How does it feel for us? Well, Lisa, how does it feel for you?
We're broken, we're finished, we're never going to be the same again. Our lives have been changed forever, and our son was murdered. They shot him 9 times.
And how important is it for this message and for people in London to be able to understand what happened?
They have to. There's so many non-believers. Come and have a look. Come and see what atrocities took place that day. This exhibition means everything. It literally shows you everything. All these beautiful, beautiful lives taken for no reason at all. It's just pointless. Pointless.
It should be also not just Jewish people coming, but non-Jewish people as well, because this is a bleak point in history, and we really need to stop this. The hate, the anti-Semitism, it's got to stop. It started basically from this, and our country especially has taken the wrong side.
Well, interesting talking to you. Michael, Lisa, thank you very much for joining us on GB News from what is an incredibly emotional exhibition here in London.
Well, how moving and powerful, Will. Extraordinary story, and extraordinary to talk to the parents of somebody who died that day.
So important, isn't it, to keep reminding people what happened,
Absolutely.
especially in light of all the protests that we see.
Yeah, and all the terrible, those awful people who deny it and say it was all made up, fiction. That is, as he said, welcome to hell.
Well, plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom. Don't go away. First of all, we've got your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The unsettled theme does continue. A day of sunny spells, scattered showers, rain arriving later, and the winds will be picking up too. Through this morning, though, it's been a bright and fresh start across Scotland and eastern England. Showery outbreaks of rain breaking up across the country, leaving more widespread showers, especially across northern parts of England into Scotland. Northern Ireland turning drier this afternoon with more hazy sunshine developing, and here temperatures reaching up to 14 degrees across the southeast, highs of 14 to 16 degrees. As we go through the afternoon and into the evening time, those showers persisting across much of Scotland. Either side, across the far east and the far west, we should see some sunshine to end the day. Across Northern Ireland, though, we've got the next weather system approaching, so cloud will be increasing, some showery outbreaks of rain arriving by the end of the evening across the south, that persisting across Wales and the southwest of England. So outbreaks of rain during rush hour here, elsewhere holding on to showers. Those showers across eastern areas will start fading away and it will be replaced by wet and windy conditions. Outbreaks of rain more persistent and heavy than recent days, really holding on and pushing across the country through the overnight period, turning heavy over the hills. But with the rain, cloud and strong southwesterly winds, temperatures will be holding up as we start Tuesday morning. But it's a wet start to Tuesday morning. Outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, eventually clearing most places, but lingering the longest across Scotland through much of the day. Behind that, sunny spells, blustery showers moving through. Those showers could be on the heavy side still, but pushing through pretty quickly, and temperatures lifting up to 17 to 19 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then. Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
11 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of May, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, it's a Brexit battleground again. Andy Burnham distances himself from previously calling to rejoin the EU, whereas Wes Streeting calls Brexit a catastrophic mistake.
Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
Well, could it be Burnham or bust for Labour? Because if Andy Burnham does not win this seat, he is the most popular Labour politician in the country. What hope is there for the Labour Party going forward?
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Speech. He's accused the Labour Party of silencing them by using the Online Safety Act, which they say they would repeal.
And a youth crime crackdown. Parents could face prison for children's crimes under new justice reforms. Unsurprisingly, Justice Secretary David Lammy won't come on GB News to tell us about it.
And are you a blue badge holder and finding it harder and harder to find a parking space? Well, find out which councils are handling the permits.
And the Chelsea Flowers Show is in town and justice has prevailed for gnomes, as a 36-year ban on them has been overturned.
Yes, I'm live from the Chelsea Flower Show. A number of celebrities already spotted, including Brian May, Joanna Lumley I've seen, Alan Titchmarsh. I hear David Beckham's turning up later because he's teamed up with for a very special garden with the King, so stay tuned for that.
Andrew, what do you think about these proposals suggesting that parents should be punished, even imprisoned, when their children go rogue?
Well, if they're imprisoned, I don't know if that's going to do the children much good. But I think it is. Some of these feral children are feral because the parents have given up on them. So maybe that's what you need. It's another form of deterrent, isn't it?
Yes, I do think there should be consequences, especially for small children.
Yeah.
Once children become teenagers, you can't control them as such. But certainly for younger children, pre-teens, it's absolutely incumbent on parents to keep control of them.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you talk to some teachers, they say parents are worse than the kids. You know, they have an issue with the child, and then the parents come up to the school and they're really offensive and often threaten violence.
It also is an issue that's so linked with family breakdown. There's so many of these kids that get into trouble don't have dads at home, and dads are so important for helping to keep that discipline. So there is a big overlap there.
There really is. As ever, tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Katie Bowen.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you and good morning. The headlines at 3 minutes past 11. Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable for his departure. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister. David Lammy has called on the Labour Party to unite to contest the upcoming by-election in Makerfield, praising the Prime Minister's strength of character and fighting experience. That's as Labour leadership rivals Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham have ignited a fresh row over Brexit as they vie to oust Sir Keir Starmer. Allies of the Greater Manchester Mayor say the former Health Secretary's comments on rejoining the EU were unhelpful, suggesting it was a transparent bid to pit Mr Burnham against Reform UK in the Makerfield by-election. Over the weekend, Wes Streeting described Brexit as a catastrophic mistake. Andy Burnham, meanwhile, said there was a long-term case for advocating to rejoin the EU, but insisted he was not campaigning on that issue in the by-election. Elsewhere, oil prices are climbing once again this morning after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran. The US president says the clock is ticking and Iran better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them. Progress on a deal between the two countries has stalled in recent weeks. That's as there are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty by 5p per litre amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. The Treasury has not yet commented on the speculation. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. 3 people, a Dutch couple and a German national, have died since the start of the outbreak. That's as a medic who developed hantavirus symptoms on a remote British overseas territory is being cared for in a London hospital. Arrests involving the National Crime Agency for offences linked to people smuggling have gone up by more than 55% in a year. That's according to the organisation. The NCA was involved in 300 arrests, both in the UK and overseas, in the year to April 2026, up from 190 the year before. The rise is said to follow an increase in resources, with more officers working to focus only on organised immigration crime. Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Alex Norris, said the government has launched a record-breaking number of enforcement actions, including arrests and sanctions against migrant smuggling networks. Parents and guardians could be more likely to face harsh repercussions if their children break the law. That's under a shake-up of the youth justice system being launched by the Justice Secretary. David Lammy is hoping to prevent children from starting a life of crime in plans to strengthen parenting orders published today. As part of the overhaul, the Justice Secretary has promised to cut the number of children kept in jail while they await trial by 25%. There's also plans to pilot new youth intervention courts, which will aim to bring together judges and support services to tackle issues which are drawing young people into crime. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far, after being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize. Mr Rai described the moment as very surreal. His triumph, which comes a month after Rory McIlroy retained his Masters title, marks the first time in the era of the 4 current major championships that the season's first 2 majors have been won by Europeans. Those are the latest GBNews headlines. Let's take a quick look at the markets.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.3369 US and 1.1485 euros. The price of gold is £3,400 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,214 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So they were calling it the Brexit battle reigniting all over again, just weeks away from the 10th anniversary of Brexit. Andy Burnham's allies have accused Wes Streeting of trying to derail his campaign to number 10 after he made this speech at the weekend.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
Whereas in contrast, Andy Burnham has distanced himself from the Brexit debate, insisting that he will stand on that by-election on local issues.
Are you in favour of rejoining the European Union?
I've said in the long term there is a case for that, but I'm not advocating that in this by-election. In fact, what I am saying is focus now domestically. Britain has got to focus very much on the here and now.
Well, he actually said in September.
Not that long ago.
Not long ago, he hoped in his lifetime that Britain would re-enter the European Union.
Well, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy had this to say.
I think it is a bit odd to respond to the absolute roar of noise that we heard last Thursday. We got an absolute kicking at the polls and it hurt and it still hurts. And to respond to that with re-entering the European Union seems to me to be a fundamental misreading of what people are asking us for.
Well, let's talk to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, morning. Christopher is in Downing Street.
Yeah, morning, Andrew, and morning, Miriam. Welcome to Downing Street for what could be another dramatic week in politics. There's a few cameras around me. Sir Keir Starmer has left the building behind me, of course, 10 Downing Street. We think he's gone to an NHS hospital. The government's keen to push forward with those and trumpet the fall in waiting times for patients. That was announced by this government last Thursday, and the fact they're still trying to re-announce what happened last Thursday shows how this government is running out of time, really, and running out of road in terms of explaining what it's for. The government has also published today a Justice White Paper by David Lammy, the Justice Secretary. He refused to come on GBNews earlier today, so we don't really know. It's hard to explain to our viewers what's in it. It's an attempt to try and make our system of justice work better in the UK. That's because there's two worlds colliding in politics. The one where the government carries on as though nothing to see here, and of course this extraordinary row about who might replace Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, and in fact, will he stand again? We are expecting to hear later from the Prime Minister today in a pull clip, and we'll bring that to you as soon as we get it. But the battle now is about Brexit, and that's because Wes Streeting, of course, who will almost certainly be challenging Sir Keir Starmer for the leadership. He raised Brexit in a speech to a left-wing think tank on Saturday. Why does he do that? Well, he knows his main opponent should be Andy Burnham, and Andy Burnham doesn't want to talk about Brexit in a seat called Makerfield, which is likely to be selected as a candidate for when that by-election is called later this week. That seat was 2/3 voting for Brexit back in 2016. So already Andy Burnham is facing a challenge here. What does he say to the people of Makerfield about Brexit? And does he reverse his position when he tries to convince the Labour members, who are mainly pro-Remain, of his intentions when he becomes Prime Minister or leader?
Sorry, Chris, he can't. What's he complaining about, Wes Street? Andy Burnham. Wes Streeting's job is to try and undermine Andy Burnham at every opportunity. He may say he wants Labour to win that by-election. He most certainly does not want Andy Burnham to win that by-election, because he would be a formidable opponent in any leadership contest. In fact, he knows he couldn't beat him.
He couldn't beat him because the membership base is broadly pro Andy Burnham, and that's what the whole debate's about. But Wes Streeting is trying to ensure that he frames this by-election on the 18th or 25th of June all about Brexit. Why is that so symbolic? It's exactly 10 years since June the 23rd, 2016, when Britons voted by a large majority to leave the European Union. That's a conversation which Andy Burnham doesn't want to talk about there, and nor does David Lammy. I heard interviews he gave elsewhere on other broadcasters today. He was trying to say the by-election isn't about Brexit, and in fact, the red lines the government set out back in July 2024, not joining the single market, the customs union, or going back to freedom of movement, they will stand until the next election. So already we're seeing, and it's right to ask these people, what will happen about the biggest choice made by a generation of Brits to leave the European Union? Will that be reversed or after the next election? We know the Greens are quite keen on that, and Lib Dems are too, and it seems that Labour might be if they change leader.
Chris, there are members of the Labour Party who might want to make this all about Brexit, but the Reform Party want to make it all about immigration. And Robert Jenrick, the Reform Treasury spokesman, has just put out a video going through all of Andy Burnham's weak spots, I suppose you might say, but also claiming that if Burnham was to win the by-election and potentially become Prime Minister, 1 million low-skilled migrants will be allowed to stay and get British citizenship in the next few years. Do you think Andy Burnham is going to be forced to talk about immigration in this election?
He'll be forced to talk about a lot of things, because we all know that if he wins that by-election, as Andrew says, he will then enter the race to replace Keir Starmer, and will probably win, looking at the way that the votes will break amongst the party's members. And that's why all those issues will come up. It'll be a by-election like no other, a by-election like I can never remember, one which should decide who's the next Prime Minister of this country by Christmas, and could lead to an election, general election, next year. If Andy Burnham goes ahead with the plans he's talked about already in a weekend interview on Saturday night, he wants to try and nationalise the water industry. That will be £100 billion. He wants to reverse the VAR refereeing in football. He went across a whole range of areas. I'm joking about the VAR, but everything else, it can be quite expensive. And I think the opponents are correct to try and drill into what Andy Burnham stands for. Now, we've been here before, certainly Andrew and I have, in covering politics for 2 decades. We remember when Andy Burnham was accused of flip-flopping about issues back in 2010 and back in 2015 when he stood twice before. And are we seeing the beginning of another flip-flop on Brexit? He says, doesn't he doesn't want to talk about Brexit this by-election. Problem is, all of his opponents do. How does Andy Burnham square that circle?
Tricky. And West Streeting will just keep talking about it. And so will Nigel Farage.
Well, of course he will, because he wants to try and beat Andy Burnham. This is politics. He's trying to draw Andy Burnham into an area he doesn't want to talk about. I mean, but look at the wider debate there, this by-election. Reform will announce their candidate shortly. We expect it to be a local candidate who will then frame the Burnham arrival as someone who is assuming it's his right to take the seat in Makerfield. There are problems for Reform with Rupert Lowe's party, Restore Britain. They could win a few thousand votes to the right of Reform. That could damage them. The Greens are also going to stand, but the Greens could do a paper candidate and could quietly say, we'll vote Labour to keep out Farage and try and get a more left-wing Prime Minister who would be Andy Burnham. So there's multiple games here of 3D chess playing.
Indeed, Chris Hope. Well, thank you for interpreting it all for us. That's Christopher Hope outside number 10 Downing Street.
Now, a host of famous faces are getting an exclusive first look at this year's Chelsea Flower Show.
From a garden designed with the King, Sir David Beckham and Alan Titchmarsh, to celebrity-decorated gnomes and a sex garden.
Whatever
There's something for everyone. Andrew, you've been to the Chelsea Flower Show.
I thought you were about to, but not to the sex garden.
No, I wasn't.
There was no sex garden when I was there. I did go, and it was everywhere you turned, there was somebody very famous. I remember having a very long conversation with Pierce Brosnan, who was James Bond, of course.
Yeah.
And bumped into Chelsea Clinton. Remember her?
There you go. It's obviously the place to be. Well, someone who is at the place to be is GBNews' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, are you having an enjoyable morning at the flower show?
Oh, Miriam, I tell you what, if you love gardening, this is certainly the place to be for the next week or so. It's absolutely packed already. Lots of celebrities here. I've spotted Joanna Lumley, I've spotted Brian May, I've spotted Alan Titchmarsh, and we hear David Beckham is on his way as well. And that is because the King himself has a garden here at Chelsea Flower Show this year. The King's Foundation Curious Garden. You may just be able to see it behind me there. It's where all those people, as you can imagine, it's incredibly crowded. The whole point of it is aimed to encourage the nation to discover the joy of getting curious about gardening. And I'm told young people in particular is what the King and the King's Foundation, his charity, really wants to encourage, to get green, to be inspired by nature and to do a bit of gardening outdoors. And that is where David Beckham comes in, because the garden has essentially been modelled a little bit off of David Beckham. But before I talk about that, look at this chicken. You may remember, if you saw the documentary with the King's Foundation on Amazon Prime, the Cluckingham Palace sign. This is a replica of what the King has in his Highgrove garden, in his chicken coop. He likes collecting eggs in the morning when he's at Highgrove House. So you can buy this here at the Chelsea Flower Show. But the whole garden is modelled off of his gardens of Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, with a little bit of David Beckham thrown in as well. There's 7 raised beds, a nod to the number 7 on David Beckham's England shirt. And also, there's an actual beehive, a working beehive in that garden. Hopefully they won't swarm because it is May. But that is because David Beckham and the King both share a love of beekeeping. And you can see a number of them actually on the flowers here where I am. This is the kind of Highgrove shop here at the Chelsea Flower Show to pollinate and get the flowers involved. So the whole Chelsea Flower Show is here all week. Of course, several gardens to come and look at. But it's one of those great British traditions, isn't it, with this, as we come to the early part of the summer. Fingers crossed it stays dry. It was beautiful this morning. It's starting to get a little bit stormy now, but it should be a great day out for those who love gardening in the British weather.
Fantastic, Cameron. That's Cameron Walker at the Chelsea Flower Show.
You don't even really need to enjoy gardening. It's just such a spectacle. And the smells are amazing.
It looks amazing. Maybe we should present from there next year, Andrew.
Yeah, why is
probably rain
there? Yeah, probably would. Probably would, knowing all that.
I'm not a fan of names, though.
Time for the Great British Giveaway. You can win £76,000, 543 pounds and 21 pence. You could buy plenty of names for that, Miriam.
I might have other designs on the money.
There we are. There you go.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, councils are handing out blue badge permits for ADHD and anxiety. Well, Andrew,
that may
anxious
explain
is
why
just-
you've been struggling to find a parking space and you can't get a blue voucher, honestly.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with the former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Field and Matthew Talbot. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Africa was part of the
Welcome back. It's 24 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Got on the panel the former Foreign Office Minister Mark Field and former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot. And Mark, you just want to talk to the front page of The Guardian, does it?
Yeah.
The World Health Organisation says declared an emergency over an Ebola.
Ebola, which is very problematic. And, you know, obviously we're now used to can you imagine it's 6 years since the COVID thing began? But I think all of us worry a lot about, you know, the outbreak of diseases that could be transformed and, of course, in the jet age can come across the world. But already about 80 people have died and many hundreds have been diagnosed, and presumably there are thousands more undiagnosed on the border of Congo and Uganda, where there's a civil war going on at the moment. Yeah. And again, this is quite a high-profile civil sponsored by the Rwandan government, and of course, unfortunately, it's the curse of the minerals that are in that part of Congo, which again is one of the reasons why President Trump has been quite involved in this, trying to get a ceasefire involved. But suddenly there's a major health crisis, and this could really take off in quite a big way. I mean, you've obviously got a civilian population on the ground that is, you know, starving to a large extent, and as a result, I think that's one of the reasons this Ebola outbreak has taken place so virulently. But also, there are a lot of international aid workers and others who are around in the UN.
Why does it keep coming back, you know?
Well, exactly right. These things do come back. I mean, fun enough, within the DNA of disease to this day, there is the Black Death coming back, sort of 7-8 centuries on. So these things do obviously tend to come back in a less virulent way than they did in the past. But the Ebola thing is potentially very problematic. And interestingly, before we talked about COVID and coronaviruses, everyone was worried about the Ebola when it first started in Sierra Leone about 20 years ago. And it's one of the, I'm afraid, biggest messages that this world is a very close place, and the idea that it's a faraway country in Africa, and we don't have to necessarily be putting money into that sort of disease prevention. You know, obviously a huge amount of money that USAID are no longer putting there, but of course our own aid budget has come down quite considerably, and I'm afraid this is probably one of the byproducts.
Matthew, we've got to move on to Andy Burnham, your mate. He's getting his...
Just say he's my mate, no one will vote for him.
Yeah, no. People like you, Matthew. They forgive your politics who watch this programme, but he's exasperated by Streeting talking about Brexit.
Is he?
But, yeah.
You spoke to him?
Well, I've seen the front page of the Times. It says, no, we believe the Times. Burnham allies accuse Streeting of sabotage and betrayal.
We're just going to pause you there, Matthew, give you time to construct your thoughts, because we've got some breaking news with our GB News political editor, Chris Hope, who is in Downing Street. Chris.
OK, the wheels are turning now in Westminster. Moments ago, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, has said she's appointed Joshua Cameron Simons the steward and bailiff of the 300s of Chiltern. What does that mean in English? That means that Josh Simons has now quit as an MP formally. That leaves a vacancy, and that means all eyes now on the Labour whips. When will they move the writ for this by-election to be held in Makerfield? Almost certainly on the 18th or the 25th of June. So things are now happening. All the drama of last week is now being rubber-stamped, as it were, by the political system, by Westminster system. Also, Keir Starmer has just spoken in the past few moments to the party's workers, 10 days after the local elections, by the way, but he went there to thank them for their hard work during the election. The results, he says, weren't the ones we wanted. They were really tough, but you worked your socks off, the PM said. It hasn't been an easy 10 days in the circumstances, the PM says, but you've just got to get on with the job that we asked you to do. He talks about some positive areas of last week. The G7 growth figures were positive. The NHS figures were really good. That vindicates what we did to invest in the NHS, the Prime Minister says. And also the Employment Rights Act, the biggest upgrade in renters' rights of the generation. He tried to pick out elements of success in the past 2 years, as well as success around dealing with the issue of child poverty. And then he goes on, the electoral results tell us that people are frustrated, they don't feel their lives are changing quickly enough. Well, he reminds everyone, he says, every day that millions of people voted Labour back in July 2024. Get on the job, govern, bring about the change that they want. And here's the key point, Andrew Milliam. He says this: I am focused on the job that I was asked to do, to serve my country, to carry out my duties as PM of this country, delivering for the very many people who want us in office, who are saying, just get on with the job, get on with the job, get on with the change that I want to see in my life, and that's what I'm doing. And he says this on the by-election: we have an important by-election coming up, the one in Makerfield we've been discussing. It's Labour versus Reform, the PM says. We will know very shortly who the candidate is. We think it's Andy Burnham, we'll wait and see. Whoever they are, he says, I'm going to support them 100%. And I want every member, everyone in our movement to support them. A Labour candidate to beat Reform, that's the fight we're in. So to reiterate, the PM says that he will back Andy Burnham in the Makerfield by-election. The PM also says he wants the entire Labour movement, that's the cabinet, everyone, to support Andy Burnham in this by-election, despite the fact that we all know Andy Burnham wants to replace Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. This is an Alice in Wonderland world in Westminster we're dealing with.
OK, Christie, well, that's breaking news. Would Burnham want a quick by-election? The 18th, 25th?
I think quicker is better. Yeah. You can't allow this stuff just to carry on and on and on.
By the way, on the 18th is the Bank of England decides whether it's putting up interest rates.
Good. Well, that's fine.
But if they go up on that day, that's pretty tricky for Labour.
I don't think people care.
Don't you?
No, in Makerfield. No, whether I do. I don't know if people in Makerfield care when they go and cast
Nobody
a
in
vote.
Makerfield have a mortgage.
They have mortgages, but again, I think... listen, we're talking about Burnham v Farage, and they're going to vote for who they prefer, essentially. I don't think lots of policy will come into it, to be perfectly honest.
It's a personality contest, isn't it?
Basically, and the biggest hindrance, I hate to say it, is I hope Keir Starmer doesn't come up and campaign. I think he'll go down dreadfully.
Well, it'll be a landslide for Reform if he does.
I think there are certain cabinet members that will go down dreadfully on the streets of Ashton.
He's one of them.
Yeah,
Prime Minister.
He's not the only one. I still think that would also be... Send them to the safest area wards, the Labour wards. Don't be letting them interact with the public.
Why do you think people don't like David Lammy?
I think it's a lot of it's social media related. I think he didn't help himself many years ago, sort of relating the Leave campaign to sort of similar things in 1930s Germany all them years ago.
That'll all be dragged out.
David Lammy, despite being appointed as Foreign Secretary way back when, at the time, he's not really a diplomat. David Lammy will say what he really, really thinks, and that isn't always very helpful in politics.
Mark, what do you think could possibly trip up Reform in this campaign? They seem to have everything going for them at the moment in this seat.
I think they do. I mean, listen, it's going to be a long 5 weeks, and I have to say, in the Field household, the 18th of June is a red letter day. It's my daughter's birthday. I'm going to have far more time for that than the by-election, I have to say, on that day at least. No, but I think it's... you know, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge here. And as I say, there will be this perception that Andy Burnham is being brought in to become the next Prime Minister. That, as I said, we've discussed earlier, that could work both ways. Is it going to be a coronation or not? The other thing, just on this whole issue about Burnham, is I think before the world is too much older, there's going to be a big debate in the Labour Party about whether, it's a party that prides itself on diversity and progressive thought, and it has been led constantly by men, by the white men as well. And
Very good point.
The Conservative Party has had 4 female leaders, including the current incumbent, 3 of whom were Prime Minister of varying degrees of success. But the last 2 Prime Ministers have been Britons of colour. And so I just think that that's going to be quite a big debate that will, I think, obviously, they've got the by-election up until probably the 18th of June, I guess it'll be the date. But after that time, I think there's going to be a much liver debate. And my instinct is, Starmer may survive longer than we all think. This process could go on. Who knows? If Burnham doesn't get in, it could be Starmer against Streeting, and Starmer might even win that.
Oh, I think he would.
And then a few months later, things could fall away. But I have a feeling that by this time next year, we may well have a female Labour Prime Minister. I'm not quite sure who it'll be. It's someone who isn't
Angela Rayner?
at the moment.
Would it be Angela Rayner? She'd be the front runner.
Do you know who I think is really underpriced? She wouldn't be my choice, but if you're looking for a soft left candidate who can get through with the loyalty as well, it'll be Lucy Powell.
Yeah,
the deputy leader.
She's absolutely
no kind of authority, though, does she? In terms
she doesn't. But lots of them don't, unfortunately.
Well,
this is
what about the Education Secretary? Although Sunderland collapsed in terms of Labour vote.
Zero charisma and personality.
Well, Andrew and I have already been talking about putting bets on, so maybe that's another one.
Yeah. And also, of course, we shouldn't forget Rupert Lowe's party is standing in this by-election, and he did very well in his backyard, Great Yarmouth. They could
even
get thousands
if
of
he
votes.
takes 7 or 8%,
that could
be
change
enough.
everything.
It'll be interesting. Well, it'll also allow, I think, Reform UK to be seen as a more moderate force, and fun enough. So, again, that works both ways. Both it takes votes that one might think most obviously would come from that direction, but equally it allows them to say, listen, we're not the nasties with a much more hardline view on migration.
Well, the permutations are endless. It's going to be a fascinating 4 or 5 weeks.
And we know that we'll probably learn later today the date of the by-election, because, Mark, I think they've formally moved the writ in the Commons?
I think that's right, the way it works. So, yes, Josh Simons has now got taken the children hundreds.
And then he'll get his peerage. What a way to run a country.
I hope not.
We're going to have to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much. Fascinating discussion, but we are going to move to our 60-second news update with Katie Bowen.
Good morning. The headlines at 11:34. Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable for his departure. That's according to the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy. That's also as the Prime Minister has visited Labour Party headquarters in London this morning. And a breaking update, Josh Simons has now formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for a by-election. There are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. Oil prices are climbing once again this morning after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran, telling Tehran they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship MV Hondius has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far, after being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize. Mr. Rai described the moment as very surreal. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me at midday.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Do you think Reform win?
Well, some very exciting news. Emily is back.
She is.
And Tom, of course. He's had a week off.
Welcome back, Emily. Welcome back. Well, Emily and I had the pleasure of doing the show on the day of the local elections when the world changed dramatically for Keir Starmer, or rather it did the next day.
Oh, yes, but we were just talking about non-political issues, weren't we? Because of the Purdah rules.
And now, of course, we've just heard from Chopper that the by-election writ is almost certainly going to be moved today.
Yeah, and that means that the by-election is probably going to be in just 30 days' time.
Yeah,
which is a very rapid schedule.
Yeah.
No doubt the Labour Party, because they're an established party that has information, that has data on voters in this constituency, they will think it's to their advantage to move quickly before the other parties can canvass properly, before they can get their data of where their voters are.
Reform haven't even announced their candidate yet.
No, we are expecting that in the next 48 hours.
Are we? Yeah.
Perhaps on our show this afternoon, so you'll have to stay tuned.
They would anyway. But I think they ought to, if I were advising, pick a local person steeped in
The chap who stood for them in the last election has just been elected as a local councillor in the area. Of course, in the wider Wigan Council, that's sort of basically Makerfield is basically South Wigan. Sort of, and the wider council area, Reform won every single seat in the local elections. And the chap that stood for them in the last election, he has been in the army. He has been he works as a plumber. I mean, he's a local chap. So I mean, probably
another plumber in the Parliament, wasn't she a plumber in Gorton?
Hannah Spencer, yes.
I think the only way you can win a by-election in Greater Manchester is to stand a plumber. I think that's just the new
But not
rule.
a toolmaker.
Not a toolmaker. But Hannah Spencer was a very green, eco-activist plumber.
Yes, she was.
She only did heat pumps.
She must have had very expensive clients because of the price of them.
Hannah, do you know Hannah Spencer was a plumber, but she wasn't gas certified?
Because
so you couldn't have got her to come and fix the boiler.
I have an ethical objection to being gas certified. We've got a lot coming up. This is all going to probably cost us £5 million. All of this, getting Andy Burnham into Parliament.
That will be an issue for Burnham's team to answer, because there's going to have to be an election for the Greater Manchester Mayor and the by-election. Millions.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And that comes out of the taxpayers' pocket.
There's only a by-election for the Manchester Mayor if Andy Burnham wins.
Yes.
If he loses, he gets the consolation prize of remaining Manchester Mayor.
Yeah.
May not feel like such a prize, but we'll see. Very exciting. Lovely to see you back, Emily.
Thank you.
Well, all that's coming up at midday, but up next, the wheels have officially come off, literally, the Brexit bus. Can we make it roadworthy again? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Warmer weather is on the way, but before it turns warmer, it's going to turn wetter. A lot of cloud today, showery rain, some sunshine in between the showers, especially towards the north and the east of the UK. But weather systems are rolling in now from the west and southwest. A number of weather fronts are going to affect us during the next 48 hours or so. First weather front bringing showers to many northern and eastern parts of the UK. Some heavy downpours, even the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the dry weather, northeast Scotland, especially Shetland and Orkney. Further west, showers ease, but some longer spells of rain start to approach by the end of the afternoon. A lot of cloud here, feeling it not especially pleasant. We end the day with these showers moving their way east and northeast across Scotland, merging to give longer spells of rain at times. Some sunshine in between, especially the west coast and the east coast inland. It's more showery and cloudier. And we've got this area of cloud and showers affecting the Pennines into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Further west, as I say, the showers easing, but more persistent damp weather approaching Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Winds freshening through the evening, and then the heavier rain moves in overnight across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Rain also reaching eastern and some northern parts of the UK, but the far northeast staying largely dry with a lot of cloud and that wind picking up. It's a milder night compared with many recent nights, temperatures staying in the double figures in places, but a damp start to the day for Scotland, for northern England and the east. Then we've got brighter skies emerging from the west, but with lots of showers moving in, especially for Western England, Wales and Northern Ireland. These showers will be slow moving and heavy, but at least where we avoid the showers, it will feel a bit warmer.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, yeah.
It is 11:42 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pierce.
Just been talking about batteries. I'm not going to explain why. We have a conversation with the gallery, you see, and the gallery and I were cut off.
And Andrew
they were
never, ever does what he's told.
I never do what I'm told anyway. But they were saying, move on, and I was gaily asking more questions.
Completely ignoring them, deliberate or not.
Because my batteries have worked.
We'll leave that, let viewers decide.
So the wheels on the iconic Brexit bus, you remember the one that said £350 saving on the NHS?
350 million.
Was it 350 million? Oh, actually, there was an argument about how much it was. Are no longer going round and round. The vehicle failed its MOT last month. You couldn't make this up, could you?
Well, the red coach used by the former Conservative leader Boris Johnson during the Leave campaign was found to have
major defects, a bit like Boris. And it required immediate repairs. We've lost Miriam for a second. Almost 10 years on from the referendum, and with many voters believing Brexit was an error. I don't think they think it was an error. I just think it wasn't delivered properly. Some say the failure of the bus is a metaphor for what went wrong with Brexit.
Well, we're now pleased to be joined by the former number 10 transport advisor, Andrew Gilligan. Andrew, you've written this piece in The Spectator about the wheels falling off the Brexit bus. Obviously, this is literally true, but are you also making a subtle dig at the fact that Brexit is still not really resolved in this country?
Well, that's what the comments on my piece seem to think. I wasn't really. I was just finding a nice, interesting fact, and reporting it. But obviously, there are some people now who want to reopen the whole thing, where Streeting has said he wants to take us back into the EU. Andy Burnham sort of hummed and hawed about it, but we know he's expressed pro-rejoin views in the past. I think that would be a big mistake. The last thing we need is another 5 years of the Brexit wars. And I also think, obviously the country needs to reduce the amount of bureaucracy in it and reduce the amount of regulation to get growing again. And Brexit would make that rejoining would make that very, very difficult.
And we shouldn't forget, Andrew, Northern Ireland, very important part of the United Kingdom. They say they're sort of half in and half out still after the Brexit deal. Can you just explain that?
Yeah. So the problem was with Northern Ireland that it has a land. It's the only bit of the UK that has a land border with the EU state, the Republic, and there was a real and rightful desperation to avoid having to create a hard border, a physical border with checkpoints and all that kind of thing, because there was a real fear that it would reignite the Troubles, so that was basically what lay behind it. And there was an answer if the EU had been prepared to be more flexible in other ways, but what we ended up doing, like you say, we ended up with a situation where Northern Ireland is half in and half out, and at one point there was a kind of border down the Irish Sea. There was a border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, it was and remains an enormously complicated question.
Andrew, that bus, the Brexit bus, became so iconic. Both sides fought over it. Is it the correct amount of money, said the Remain campaign. Leave campaign says, does it really matter? We spend so much on the EU. The point is that it's a huge amount of money. Do you think the bus itself helped Leave to win?
It was this massive controversy magnet, wasn't it? The other big controversy was it was found to be a German bus. It was made in Germany. And I remember Vote Leave going at the time, well, of course it's a German bus, we needed to run on time. That was literally a quote from their spokesman, Rob Oxley, who subsequently I worked with in Downing Street. And I did that claim on the side. We send 350 million a week to the EU, let's fund our NHS instead. Did that make a difference? Well, I mean, it was wrong, right? The actual amount net, because we had a rebate, and net of the rebate, the actual amount we sent each week was 250 million. But the idea of Remainers that if they put 250 million instead of 350 million on the side, that all, that Britain would have stayed in, is pretty silly. It was one of the several straws that Remainers were clutching at to explain why they lost. There was a row, as you remember, and Dominic Cummings, the head of the Vote Leave campaign at the time, was actually very pleased about that because it got the £350 million right into the public consciousness, and a lot of people heard about it. And so, if I'd been running it, I probably would have put 250 million rather than 350 million on the side, but it wouldn't make the slightest bit of difference to the outcome.
Andrew Gilligan, thank you so much. Maybe the bus should make a reappearance in Makerfield.
Yeah, just talking to Andrew, it just brings it all flooding back. Yeah. But how divisive it all was at the time too.
Well, Andy Burnham likes his yellow buses. So maybe they could have a yellow bus and a red bus.
Yeah. Now, up next, somebody's written in our autocue, Sir Keir Starmer's given an impassioned and rousing speech. Well, that'll be a first. When did he ever make an impassioned and rousing
Well,
speech?
his back's against the wall now, Andrew. Maybe that's what it takes. He's been saying that in Labour HQ that the election results weren't what the party wanted.
Understatement of the year.
But they worked their socks off.
I'm sure they were comforting words, especially for the 1,500 Labour councillors who lost their seats.
But first, if you want to get away from it all, here's the forecast for our European holidays.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, we've got some rain affecting France as we go through Tuesday, warm in the sunshine elsewhere with a few showers. There is a bit more cloud across the Canary Islands and across Madeira, best of the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. Outbreaks of rain affecting France. Elsewhere, many places seeing sunny spells, a few showers bubbling up as we go into the afternoons, but otherwise temperatures are on the rise. Plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid.
Destinations Forecast.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I got scammed over a period of about 18 months. I met the family. I actually met my scammer, met the family, friends. They were all part of the scam.
Did you get a sense, Lynn, that you were being scammed? And if you did, when did that happen?
Not until I went to the police. It took a long time. I think I was groomed over a period of months. So anything he said, I believed. It's very hard to explain how these people can get into your head. You know, only anyone that's been scammed will ever understand. You know.
Mm. And how helpful were police when you first went to them?
Police didn't really want to know, if I'm honest. They said, just forget about it. I said, no. I said, I'm not forgetting about it. I said, you've stolen my money. I said, I want my money back. I said, I said, I'll go and do something myself. But at the time, I was just so, I don't know what I would have done. Anyway, they changed their minds and we set up a sting with them over a 3-month period.
Wow. How much money had this man taken from you, Lynn?
About £100,000.
Gosh.
Over the period of 18 months.
Yeah.
And what would he be saying to you in order to get that money from you?
In fact, I offered him money 8 months into it because I believed that I'd lost something. I was made to believe that I've lost something, so I was offering him money, and he refused at first. And then it just got into I was chasing the money back, and it just one thing after another. It just led on to another.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Day.
Welcome back. Joining us now is GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, Keir Starmer making another speech, his first public outing since all the leadership row began.
Yes, he's gone over to Labour HQ. He's been pointing out all the things that they have done, first clubs, renters reform, and so on and so forth. But I think what's really interesting is that he said, we now have an important by-election coming up. It is Labour versus Reform. This is Makerfield, of course. Burnham or bust, I would say, for the Labour Party. And he says, we'll know very shortly who the candidate is. Whoever they are, I'm going to support them 100%. And I want every member, everyone in our movement to support them. A Labour candidate to beat Reform. That is the fight we were in. Now, of course, we know that if Andy Burnham wins that seat, he is almost certainly unstoppable and he will come after the Prime Minister's job. But if he doesn't win it, the Labour Party, I think, are going to go into freefall.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Miriam and I are going to have a bet on the outcome.
I've never placed a bet on anything before, Andrew, so you're going to have to show me how to do this. But I'm going to bet that Andy Burnham will win it, and you're going to bet that
he doesn't.
Or that he doesn't. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say that he doesn't. That he will not be the next MP for Makerfield.
Well, if you win, I'll just spend it again like last time.
Yeah. Yeah, you did, when I won before, the horses. What was it? Was it Cheltenham Gold Cup? Or
It's £5. I can't remember.
She spent my winnings. Can you believe it? Can't trust her.
It's true. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily, who
Emily's
is back.
We're thrilled to see her, and everybody will be thrilled to see and hear her.
Absolutely. And we will see you tomorrow.
For more dramatic political developments.
Absolutely.
Morning. Josh Simons has officially resigned from Parliament. At midday, nominations close for the Labour Party's candidate selection. And this afternoon, we're expecting to hear the date of this crucial by-election.
And where's Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister? He still is very much the Prime Minister, but we haven't heard from him since, I believe, last Monday?
Last Monday, when he took
week.
questions in that speech. That speech feels like months ago.
Yeah, so will we hear from him as well? We're thinking maybe we will this afternoon on Good Afternoon Britain. Stick with us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. The unsettled theme does continue. A day of sunny spells, scattered showers, rain arriving later, and the winds will be picking up too. Through this morning, though, it's been a bright and fresh start across Scotland and eastern England. Showery outbreaks of rain breaking up across the country, leaving more widespread showers, especially across northern parts of England into Scotland. Northern Ireland turning drier this afternoon with more hazy sunshine developing, and here temperatures reaching up to 14 degrees across the southeast, highs of 14 to 16 degrees. As we go through the afternoon and into the evening time, those showers persisting across much of Scotland. Either side, across the far east and the far west, we should see some sunshine to end the day. Across Northern Ireland, though, we've got the next weather system approaching, so cloud will be increasing, some showery outbreaks of rain arriving by the end of the evening across the south, that persisting across Wales and the southwest of England. So outbreaks of rain during rush hour here, elsewhere holding on to showers. Those showers across eastern areas will start fading away, and it will be replaced by wet and windy conditions. Outbreaks of rain more persistent and heavy than recent days, really holding on and pushing across the country through the overnight period, turning heavy over the hills. But with the rain, cloud and strong southwesterly winds, temperatures will be holding up as we start Tuesday morning. But it's a wet start to Tuesday morning. Outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, eventually clearing most places, but lingering the longest across Scotland through much of the day. Behind that, sunny spells, blustery showers moving through. Those showers could be on the heavy side still, but pushing through pretty quickly, and temperatures lifting up to 17 to 19 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of May. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. A Brexit row erupts inside Labour, yes, after former Health Secretary Wes Streeting said he wants Britain to rejoin the EU. That prompted Andy Burnham to distance himself as he campaigns in a heavily pro-Brexit seat. Quite the U-turn, though, from these comments he made in September last year.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about that.
Well, will we finally hear from Sir Keir Starmer today? Allegedly still the Prime Minister, but he's not spoken to the public since last week, with allies insisting the Prime Minister is staying out despite the civil war, staying put despite that civil war in his party.
Yes, well, it's a week since I was at that press conference and asked the Prime Minister a question which he didn't answer, but he has been at Labour HQ today, and he has said that whoever the candidate is, and let's face it, it's going to be Andy Burnham in Makerfield, he will support them 100%, even though we know that Andy Burnham is coming after the Prime Minister's job.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal, but they might be crazy.
Well, yes, President Trump tells Iran to move fast or there won't be anything left of them as tensions continue to escalate over the Strait of Hormuz.
Mob chaos on Britain's high streets, from shoplifting raids to violent crowd surges over designer watches. So what's driving this growing culture of public disorder among young people?
And the Chelsea Flower Show is in town, and justice has prevailed for gnomes as a 36-year ban on them has been overturned.
Yes, I'm live from a very busy Chelsea Flower Show. Lots of celebrities have been spotted already. We've had Brian May, Alan Titchmarsh, Miriam Margolyes. I suspect David Beckham may be about to show up as well, because he has collaborated with His Majesty the King on the curious garden behind me. Stay tuned to find out all about it.
Well, it's on.
It is.
Formally, it's on. Josh Simons, the MP for Makerfield, is no longer the MP for Makerfield. As of this morning, he has been appointed as the steward and bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds, which means he can no longer be an MP, the curious way in which MPs resign, meaning that we should expect to hear more details about this by-election this afternoon.
What's he become, sorry?
The steward and bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds.
The steward and bailiff of the Chiltern 300s.
Well, so it's,
there you go.
it's shortened to the Chiltern Hundreds, but it is the 300s of Chiltern in technical
the 300s
language.
of Chiltern. So there you go. It is game on. And now Keir Starmer is being forced at Labour HQ to say, yes, I'm 100% behind this Andy Burnham chap. Yes, absolutely.
Funny how he's speaking to his party staff, but Catherine, one of the last journalists he spoke to was you, and that was over a week ago.
It was a week ago, and I have to say it feels like about a month because of the tsunami of news that has followed. But yes, we had that supposed reset speech, which was not enough. And I asked him about the core Labour vote, the working class feeling that the Labour Party had abandoned them. He didn't answer that question at all. Now, politicians often don't answer questions. We all know that, but it was so blatant. He just launched into an attack on Nigel Farage and Brexit and talked about more Europe and say, we have to talk about it. But, of course, Andy Burnham is standing in a seat which voted 65% to leave. Andy Burnham does not want to talk about Brexit, but Wes Streeting has made sure that we will be. And, of course, Reform will also make sure that we do.
But he's said a lot in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, please do get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/your say. What do you make of it all?
Can I just say, that speech last week that the Prime Minister made, it does not feel like it was last week. It feels like it was a world ago, because since then we've had, 11 government resignations. We've had an MP resign. Andy Burnham declare that he's returning to Parliament to challenge the Prime Minister. Wes Streeting almost launched a leadership contest. I mean, what a crazy 7 days it's been.
And now we're really fighting the Brexit wars. Yippee for us, eh?
Oh, I think everyone's tired. No one wants Labour to reopen the Brexit wars.
No.
We're so over it.
Maybe like 8% of the population that can't get enough of Brexit wars. Anyway, should we get to the headlines with Katie Byrne?
Tom, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 5 minutes past 12. Sir Keir Starmer says he's focused on carrying out his duties as Prime Minister and that he'll support the Labour candidate in the upcoming Makerfield by-election 100%.